My name is Gracie, and at 32, I was proud of my decade at Tech Solutions, rising from intern to middle manager with 12 talented people under my wing. Our department was a well-oiled machine until Derek arrived with his iron fist leadership style. I never thought a simple phrase, "my way or the highway," would trigger a chain of events that completely destroyed his career. If you are watching this video, drop a comment letting me know where you are viewing from. Hit that like and subscribe button if you want more workplace stories that will make your jaw drop. I still remember the day I walked into Tech Solutions for my interview. Fresh out of college with my business degree from State University, nervous but determined. The lobby had this modern industrial look with exposed brick walls, sleek furniture, and motivational quotes painted in vibrant colors. I instantly fell in love with the energy of the place. My interviewer was Michelle Parker, the director who would later become my mentor. She had this warm smile that immediately put me at ease. Unlike other intimidating executives, Michelle asked questions that went beyond my resume. She wanted to know how I approached problems, what motivated me, and how I handled setbacks. By the end of the interview, I felt like she saw something in me that I had not yet recognized in myself. When I received the internship offer, I literally jumped up and down in my tiny apartment, scaring my roommate Julia, who thought I had seen a spider. That summer internship turned into a full-time position, and thus began my journey at Tech Solutions. During those early years, I absorbed everything like a sponge. I volunteered for extra projects, stayed late to learn from senior staff, and treated every challenge as an opportunity. Michelle noticed my dedication and began giving me more responsibilities. By my third year, I was leading small projects. By year 5, I had been promoted to team lead. My management style developed naturally from what I had learned under Michelle. I believed in truly listening to my team members, not just hearing their words, but understanding their concerns, aspirations, and ideas. I made it a point to recognize their strengths and help them improve their weaknesses without making them feel inadequate. As our department grew, so did my responsibilities. By my 8th year, I was managing a team of 12 brilliant individuals. We had Thomas, our coding wizard, who could solve problems that left others scratching their heads. Jennifer, whose attention to detail saved us from countless potential disasters. Ryan, whose creative thinking brought fresh perspectives to every project. Amanda, whose people skills made her our unofficial diplomat when dealing with difficult clients. Each team member brought something unique to the table, and I took pride in creating an environment where they could all shine. Tech Solutions itself was thriving during those years. Our company specialized in custom software solutions for healthcare providers, and our reputation for quality and innovation kept bringing in bigger clients. The work environment was what every tech company aspired to create. Flexible working hours allowed parents to attend school events. Our collaborative spaces encouraged spontaneous brainstorming sessions. The break room stocked with healthy snacks and good coffee became the birthplace of some of our best ideas. Michelle fostered a culture where work-life balance was not just a buzzword but a practiced reality. She understood that burned-out employees could never produce their best work. Twice a year, we had company retreats that combined professional development with team-building activities. These retreats strengthened the bonds between team members and recharged our creative batteries. Our department consistently exceeded targets without sacrificing quality or pushing people to burnout. We had the lowest turnover rate in the company because people genuinely enjoyed coming to work. I often heard my team members say they felt more like family than colleagues, which I considered my greatest achievement as a manager. Then came the announcement that changed everything. During an all-hands meeting, our CEO, Michael Johnson, revealed that Michelle had been offered a position as regional director for our new international branch in London. It was a tremendous opportunity for her, one that she absolutely deserved, but I felt my stomach sink at the thought of losing her leadership. After the meeting, Michelle pulled me aside. "Gracie, I recommended you for my position," she said, her eyes bright with pride. My heart raced at the possibility, but reality soon followed. "I appreciate that more than you know, but I think the higher-ups will want someone with more executive experience," I replied. Michelle squeezed my shoulder. "You may be right, but I want you to know that you are ready for more responsibility, whether it comes now or later." The following weeks were a whirlwind of emotions for our entire department. We were genuinely happy for Michelle organizing a farewell party that brought tears to her eyes. Yet there was an undercurrent of anxiety about what would come next. Change is always unsettling, even when you are used to adapting to new technologies and methods as we were. The announcement of Michelle's replacement came 3 weeks later. Derek Wilson would be joining us from Rival Tech, our biggest competitor. His resume was undeniably impressive. Under his leadership, their product development department had launched several successful products in record time. The press release mentioned his results-driven approach and track record of excellence. "He seems accomplished," Thomas said as we read the announcement together. "But I wonder what he is like to work with." I nodded, sharing his curiosity. "I guess we will find out soon enough." What none of us realized was just how much was about to change, and how quickly those changes would come. Derek Wilson made quite an entrance on his first day. He arrived in an expensive tailored suit that seemed out of place in our business casual environment. Tall, with perfectly groomed salt and pepper hair, he carried himself with the confidence of someone used to being the smartest person in the room. His handshake was firm to the point of being uncomfortable, and he maintained unwavering eye contact that felt more like a challenge than a connection. The company organized a welcome breakfast, where Derek addressed the department for the first time. Standing at the front of our largest conference room, he spoke about his vision for taking us to the next level. His presentation was polished, filled with impressive charts showing the growth he had achieved at Rival Tech. "I believe in pushing boundaries and exceeding expectations," he told us. "The tech industry waits for no one. Either we innovate and excel, or we become irrelevant." It sounded reasonable enough, even inspiring in a way. Several team members nodded along, seemingly impressed by his credentials and confidence. I noticed others shifting uncomfortably in their seats, perhaps sensing what I did, a certain rigidity beneath the professional veneer. Derek concluded by saying, "I look forward to meeting with each team leader individually to discuss current projects and future goals. Let us make Tech Solutions the industry leader it deserves to be." After the meeting, I introduced myself and welcomed him to the team. His smile did not quite reach his eyes as he said, "Ah, Gracie. Michelle spoke highly of you. I look forward to seeing if her assessment was accurate." The comment caught me off guard. Was that a compliment or a challenge? Before I could respond, he had already turned to speak with someone else. The first real warning sign came just 3 days later. Without consulting any of the managers, Derek sent a company-wide email announcing the end of our flexible working hours policy. Effective immediately, all employees were required to be in the office from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. Monday through Friday. No exceptions. My inbox immediately flooded with concerned messages from my team. Jennifer, a single mother of 2, was particularly distressed. The flexible hours had allowed her to drop her children at school in the mornings. Ryan, who had negotiated his work schedule to accommodate evening classes for his master's degree, wondered if he would need to put his education on hold. I knocked on Derek's door that same afternoon, hoping to discuss the impact of this sudden change. "Come in," he called without looking up from his computer. "Derek, I wanted to discuss the new hours policy," I began, trying to keep my tone neutral. "Several team members have expressed concerns about how it will affect their personal obligations." He finally looked up, his expression impassive. "The policy is non-negotiable, Gracie. Our competitors are working longer hours, and we need to keep pace. But our productivity metrics show that the flexible schedule actually increased output," I countered, pulling out the quarterly report I had brought with me. "People work more efficiently when they can arrange their hours around their peak productivity times." Derek barely glanced at the report. "Those metrics do not account for the benefits of having everyone present for spontaneous collaboration. Besides, how can I properly oversee operations if people are coming and going at all hours?" It became clear that this was not a discussion but an information session. Derek had made his decision, and he was not interested in evidence to the contrary. The next change came a week later: daily status reports. Each team member was now required to submit detailed accounts of their activities broken down into 15-minute increments. This paperwork added nearly an hour to everyone's workday, reducing the time available for actual productive work. When I raised this concern during our management meeting, Derek dismissed it with a wave of his hand. "People waste time during the day without realizing it." This will help them become more aware of how they spend their hours. Amanda from HR tentatively spoke up. Has there been an issue with productivity that prompted this change? Derek's response was curt. It is preemptive. I prefer to establish strong oversight from the beginning rather than trying to correct problems later. The tension in our once harmonious workplace began to build. I overheard whispers in the break room, saw the forced smiles when Derek walked through the office. My team still performed well. They were professionals who took pride in their work, but the joy was seeping out of our environment. I tried to act as a buffer, absorbing as much of Derek's micromanagement as I could to shield my team. When Thomas developed a minor bug that delayed a project by half a day, I took responsibility during the review meeting, knowing that Derek's response would be disproportionately harsh. By the end of Derek's first month, we had a new system for tracking bathroom breaks, 3 additional weekly meetings that seemed to accomplish nothing, and a growing sense of dread that spread through the office like a virus. Sarah, one of our most talented developers, approached me after hours, her expression somber. Gracie, I hate to do this, but I have started looking for another position. My heart sank, though I could not say I was surprised. Is there anything I can do to make things better for you here? I asked, already knowing the answer. She shook her head. It is not your fault. You have been amazing. But this place is changing into something I do not recognize anymore. I feel like I am walking on eggshells all day. I nodded, understanding completely. I will give you an outstanding reference whenever you need it. That night I sat in my car in the empty parking lot, wondering how things had deteriorated so quickly. Should I have fought harder against these changes? Was I failing my team by not standing up to Derek more forcefully? But every attempt to discuss alternative approaches had been shut down immediately. It felt like talking to a wall with the power to fire me. The final straw that week came during our monthly department meeting. Derek unveiled a new performance evaluation system that emphasized quantity over quality. The number of features delivered would now weigh more heavily than customer satisfaction or code integrity. This will drive innovation and speed, Derek explained, with the confidence of someone who had never had to maintain buggy code. I glanced around the room and saw the dismay on the faces of the engineering team. They understood, as apparently Derek did not, that this would inevitably lead to technical debt and customer complaints down the line. As the meeting concluded, Amanda from HR caught my eye and motioned for me to stay behind. The employee satisfaction surveys came back, she said quietly once we were alone. The numbers are concerning, especially from your department, which used to have our highest ratings. I was not surprised. Have you shared this with Derek? Amanda sighed. Yes. He said that resistance to change is normal and that the numbers will improve once people adapt to the new systems. Her expression told me she did not believe that any more than I did. But what could either of us do? Derek had the full support of upper management, who were impressed by his previous accomplishments and confident that his methods would yield similar results here. Little did they know how quickly things would unravel. 2 months into Derek's leadership, I requested a private meeting to discuss team morale and productivity. Armed with data and specific examples, I hoped a fact-based approach might resonate with him. Derek's office was meticulously organized, with awards and certificates prominently displayed. He gestured for me to sit while he finished an email, making me wait a full 5 minutes before acknowledging my presence. What can I do for you, Gracie? He finally asked, leaning back in his chair. I opened my laptop and presented a comparison of our team's metrics before and after his new policies. As you can see, while hours worked have increased, our actual output has decreased by 20%. Bug reports are up, and 3 clients have expressed concerns about declining quality. Derek barely glanced at my screen. Numbers do not tell the whole story. We are in a transition period. Every major improvement requires temporary discomfort. With all due respect, I continued, this is more than discomfort. Team members are burning out. The daily reports are taking time away from actual coding. The rigid hours are causing personal hardships for several employees with family obligations. Derek's expression hardened. Do you think success comes without sacrifice? At Rival Tech, we worked 70-hour weeks to launch their flagship product. And how many of those developers are still with the company? I asked. He waved dismissively. The ones with the right attitude stayed. The others were not cut out for excellence. But our team was already excellent, I insisted. We consistently exceeded targets, had the highest client satisfaction ratings in the company, and maintained a healthy work-life balance. Derek leaned forward, his voice taking on an edge. That was then. The market is more competitive now. Michelle's approach was too soft. These people need to be pushed if they are going to reach their potential. I realized I was getting nowhere. Derek saw our previous success as despite our culture, not because of it. To him, work-life balance was a luxury, not a contributor to sustainable productivity. Over the following weeks, Derek implemented even more controversial policies. The training budget was cut by 60%, with Derek explaining that excessive training creates job hoppers who take their new skills elsewhere. Our quarterly team-building events were canceled as unnecessary expenses. The casual Friday tradition that everyone enjoyed, eliminated because it undermined professional standards. Each change chipped away at the culture we had built. The collaborative atmosphere that had fostered innovation was replaced by competition and fear. People stopped sharing ideas freely, worried about having their contributions claimed by others eager to improve their metrics. The impact on quality was undeniable. Our customer support team reported an increase in complaints. Projects that would have been completed smoothly under our previous workflow now hit multiple roadblocks. Instead of addressing the root causes, Derek implemented stricter oversight and more frequent status meetings, further reducing productive time. Sarah, true to her word, submitted her resignation. During her exit interview, she was frank about her reasons for leaving. Amanda from HR brought these concerns to Derek, who dismissed them entirely. If she cannot adapt to a professional environment with appropriate standards, then her departure is for the best, he said. We need team players, not complainers. When Amanda pointed out that Sarah had been one of our most productive developers with an impeccable record, Derek suggested that perhaps Michelle had set the bar too low. The implication was clear: he considered our previous successes mediocre. By this point, I was exhausted from trying to serve as a buffer between my team and Derek's increasingly unreasonable demands. I found myself working 12-hour days trying to complete my own work, plus the additional administrative tasks Derek required, all while providing emotional support to increasingly distressed team members. Thomas caught me in the break room one evening long after most people had gone home. "Gracie, you look terrible," he said bluntly but kindly. I attempted a smile. "Thanks for the compliment." "Seriously," he insisted. "You are killing yourself trying to protect us and meet these impossible standards. Something has to give." He was right, of course. I had lost 8 pounds in the past month, was averaging 4 hours of sleep, and had canceled plans with friends 3 weekends in a row to work on reports that Derek demanded but barely read. Amanda from HR became increasingly alarmed as well. One day she called me into her office and closed the door. "The turnover numbers are becoming impossible to ignore," she said, showing me a chart. 4 resignations this month alone, all from high-performing employees. 2 cited leadership issues directly in their exit interviews. "Has this been escalated to Michael?" I asked, referring to our CEO. Amanda nodded. "Yes, but Derek got to him first. Convinced him that this is just pruning the dead weight before scaling up operations. Michael trusts him because of his track record." I left that meeting feeling defeated. If upper management was buying into Derek's narrative, what chance did we have of changing course? The situation reached a boiling point when our team was assigned a major project for Johnson Healthcare, a client worth millions in annual revenue. The timeline Derek proposed was aggressive but potentially doable, if everything went perfectly, which in software development it rarely does. My team worked diligently, putting in extra hours despite already being stretched thin. 2 weeks into the project, our lead developer Ryan discovered a significant issue with the client's existing infrastructure that would require additional work to ensure compatibility. I immediately scheduled a meeting with Derek to discuss adjusting the timeline. "Absolutely not," was his immediate response. The deadline was set based on the client's expectations. Telling them we need more time will make us look incompetent. But delivering a product that fails because we rush through compatibility testing will make us look even worse, I argued. Derek's face reddened. "Your team needs to find a way to make it work. That is what I pay you for. If Ryan cannot handle the technical challenges, perhaps we need to find someone who can." The threat to Ryan's position was the last straw. He had been with the company for 6 years and had solved countless complex problems. Questioning his competence was not just unfair, it was absurd. That night, the entire team stayed until midnight, ordering pizza and working frantically to find a workaround. Ryan eventually discovered a temporary solution that would allow us to meet the deadline, though he warned it would require significant rework later. When I shared this with Derek the next morning, instead of appreciation, he simply said, "That should have been identified earlier." This last-minute scrambling is unprofessional. I bit my tongue, reminding myself that my team needed me to remain employed. But my patience was wearing dangerously thin. The Johnson Healthcare project continued to present challenges. Despite our team's Herculean efforts, we hit another roadblock when their IT department changed a critical API without notice. This required us to rewrite portions of our integration code with less than a week before the deadline. I called an emergency team meeting on a Wednesday evening. Everyone looked exhausted with dark circles under their eyes and the hollow expression of people pushing beyond their limits. "I know everyone is already giving 110%, I said, looking around the room. "But we need to discuss options for handling this latest setback." Ryan rubbed his eyes. "Technically speaking, we have 2 options. We can rush a patch that might work but will be unstable, or we can do it right, which will take at least another 2 weeks. "Derek will never agree to extending the deadline," Jennifer said, voicing what everyone was thinking. "What if we present both options to the client?" Thomas suggested. "Let them decide if they prefer speed or stability." It was a reasonable approach. Most clients, when given honest information, prefer a slight delay to a flawed product. I scheduled a meeting for the following morning with Derek, the client representatives, and our team leads. That night, I prepared a detailed presentation outlining the situation, the available options, and our professional recommendation. I practiced my delivery, anticipating Derek's objections and preparing responses. This was too important to let his management style derail a $1 million project. The meeting room was tense the next morning. Johnson Healthcare sent their CTO and 2 senior IT managers, indicating how seriously they took the project. Derek arrived last, greeting the clients warmly while barely acknowledging our team. I began the presentation, carefully explaining the technical challenges and the 2 potential paths forward. The client's CTO, a former developer himself, asked insightful questions that Ryan and Thomas answered with professional expertise. "Based on your explanation," the CTO said, "I think we would prefer to extend the timeline and get a stable product. Our users would rather wait a bit longer than deal with bugs and crashes." Before I could respond, Derek interjected, "That will not be necessary. My team assured me this morning that they can meet the original deadline without compromising quality." I stared at him in shock. This was an outright lie. We had discussed no such thing. "Actually," I said carefully, "as I just explained, rushing would create significant risks that we feel professionally obligated to disclose." Derek's smile remained fixed, but his eyes flashed with anger. "Perhaps I should clarify. Some members of the team have expressed concerns, but I have full confidence that our senior developers can handle this challenge." He was throwing my team under the bus, implying that their concerns stemmed from incompetence rather than professional judgment. I saw Ryan's jaw clench and Jennifer's face flush with anger. The client's CTO looked confused. "Well, if you can truly deliver without compromising quality, that would be preferable. But I want to be clear that we prioritize stability over speed." After the clients left, Derek asked the team to remain. His face was a mask of barely controlled rage. "That was completely unprofessional," he snapped at me. "You undermined my authority in front of a major client." I presented the factual situation, I replied, struggling to keep my voice steady. "Promising something we cannot deliver would be unprofessional." "Your job is to find solutions, not make excuses," Derek retorted. "If your team cannot handle tight deadlines, that reflects poor management." Ryan stood up. "With all due respect, sir, this has nothing to do with our capabilities. It is a simple matter of software development reality. Some things cannot be rushed without consequences." Derek turned his glare to Ryan. "Perhaps at your skill level that is true, but I have managed teams that accomplished much more, with far less complaint." The tension in the room was palpable. Thomas and Jennifer exchanged glances, clearly uncomfortable with the confrontation but supportive of our position. Derek looked around the room, his face reddening further. Then came the words that would change everything. "Listen here," he said, his voice rising. "This is my way or the highway. Anyone who does not agree can find the door right now." A heavy silence fell over the room. 10 years of my professional life flashed before my eyes, the relationships I had built, the projects we had successfully delivered, the culture of respect we had created, all of it disregarded and dismissed by someone who had been with the company for mere months. Without a word, I closed my laptop, gathered my notes, and stood up. Derek looked momentarily surprised, as if he had not expected anyone to actually take him up on his ultimatum. I walked to the door, then turned back to face him. "For the record," I said quietly, "this team has consistently delivered exceptional results for years. Your way is not working. Good luck with the project." Then I walked out, my heart pounding but my head surprisingly clear. I went straight to my desk, collected my personal items, and left the building. As I drove home, a complex mixture of emotions washed over me: fear about my future, anger at Derek's arrogance, grief for the workplace I had loved, but also an unexpected sense of relief. For the first time in months, I had stood up for what I believed was right. That night was one of intense reflection. I sat on my balcony with a glass of wine, watching the city lights and contemplating my next steps. Had I been too impulsive? Should I have tried one more time to reason with Derek or escalated the issue to Michael? I had tried reasoning. I had presented data. I had protected my team as best I could while still being a team player. There comes a point where continuing to participate in a toxic system makes you part of the problem. By midnight, I had drafted my resignation email. It was professional but direct, outlining my reasons for leaving and expressing gratitude for the opportunities Tech Solutions had provided me over the past decade. I did not send it immediately, deciding to sleep on such an important decision. Morning brought clarity rather than doubt. I reread my letter, made a few minor edits, and hit send at precisely 8 a.m. Then I made coffee and began updating my resume, expecting the day to be focused on planning my job search. What I did not expect was the flood of text messages that began around 9:30. The first message came from Thomas. "Just submitted my resignation. If they do not value your leadership after 10 years, nothing will change. Want to meet for lunch to discuss next steps." Before I could respond, Jennifer texted, "I quit too. Not working for someone who treats people like Derek does. Are you okay?" Then Ryan just sent my resignation letter. "Derek does not deserve our team. Already have 3 companies asking me to interview. Want me to put in a good word for you." Messages continued to arrive throughout the morning. Amanda from HR texted cryptically, "You might want to turn on your computer around 11. Something big is happening." By noon, I had received messages from all 12 members of my former team. Every single one had resigned in protest of Derek's management style and in solidarity with me. I was stunned and deeply moved. These were professionals with mortgages, families, and responsibilities, yet they had taken a stand based on principle. I tried to be the voice of reason, responding to several with cautions about making hasty decisions. "Are you sure about this?" I wrote to Jennifer. "Job hunting with 2 kids to support will be stressful." Her response was immediate. "Some things matter more than security. My kids need to see their mom stand up for what is right. Besides, with our team's reputation, we will all find new positions quickly." She was probably correct. Our team was well respected in the industry, with several members regularly receiving recruitment offers. Still, I felt responsible. Had my dramatic exit inspired a mass exodus that some might later regret? Around 11, as Amanda had hinted, my curiosity got the better of me. I powered up my laptop and logged into my work email one last time, half expecting to find it already deactivated. Instead, I found a frantic message from Amanda sent just 30 minutes earlier. Derek just opened his inbox to find 12 resignation letters. You should have seen his face. I have never seen someone go from red to pale so quickly. "Michael has called an emergency executive meeting. Will update you when I can." I could imagine the scene. Derek, arrogant and dismissive as always, opening his email to find an unprecedented mass resignation. the realization dawning that he had lost an entire department of skilled professionals in a single day, the panicked calculations of how this would affect ongoing projects and client relationships. An hour later, my phone rang with an unknown number. It was Amanda calling from her personal phone during lunch. "You would not believe what happened," she said, her voice a mixture of stress and satisfaction. Derek stormed into Michael's office this morning, waving printouts of the resignation emails demanding authority to hire replacements immediately. I was there for the quarterly HR review. "What did Michael say?" I asked. He was shell-shocked. Asked Derek what had happened to cause an entire department to quit simultaneously. Derek tried to spin it as collective inadequacy claimed the team could not handle professional standards. I could hear the smile in Amanda's voice as she continued. That is when I spoke up. I put the satisfaction surveys, exit interview data, and productivity metrics on the table. Then I looked Derek straight in the eye, pointed to the stack of resignation letters and said, "So, what exactly is your way?" I burst out laughing at her perfect delivery. "You did not." "I absolutely did," she confirmed. "Professional suicide maybe, but worth it. Michael has called in consultants to evaluate the situation. Derek is trying to save face, but losing an entire department in one day is impossible to explain away." News of the mass resignation spread quickly throughout the company. My phone continued to buzz with messages from former colleagues in other departments expressing support and sharing office gossip. Apparently, Derek had been seen shouting into his phone in the parking lot. The client relations team was in panic mode, trying to figure out how to explain the situation to Johnson Healthcare and other clients, whose projects were now in jeopardy. By late afternoon, the story had even reached industry blogs. A vague but recognizable account appeared on TechCrunch sources report unprecedented exodus at Tech Solutions following management conflict. 12 senior developers resigned simultaneously, potentially jeopardizing major healthcare contract. I felt a twinge of guilt about the company's reputation, despite everything I'd spent 10 good years there and did not wish to see it suffer. But perhaps this public embarrassment would force necessary changes in leadership approach. Thomas, Jennifer, Ryan, and I met for dinner that evening at our favorite restaurant near the office. The atmosphere was strange, a mixture of celebration and mourning. We toasted to our collective stand for dignity and respect in the workplace, while also reminiscing about the good years under Michelle's leadership. "Any regrets?" I asked, looking around the table. Ryan shook his head. "None. I already have 2 interviews lined up for next week." "My only regret," Thomas said thoughtfully, "is that we did not stand up to Derek sooner. Maybe if we had pushed back collectively from the beginning, things would not have escalated to this point." Jennifer nodded. "I have been thinking the same thing. We kept hoping he would adjust his style, if we just proved ourselves. But that was never going to happen." We spent hours talking, processing the dramatic shift in our professional lives, and beginning to plan for what came next. There was talk of possibly joining the same company to continue working together, or even exploring the possibility of starting our own consultancy. By the time we said our goodbyes, I felt a sense of closure beginning to form. Whatever came next, I knew I had made the right decision, and I was humbled by the loyalty of my team. Their solidarity had transformed an individual's stand into a powerful statement that could not be ignored. The next morning brought an unexpected email from Michael, the CEO, "Gracie, I would appreciate an opportunity to speak with you about recent events. Please call me at your earliest convenience." I stared at the message, unsure how to respond. Was this a genuine attempt to understand what had gone wrong or a strategy to mitigate damage to the company? After careful consideration, I decided that I owed it to my former colleagues who still worked there to provide honest feedback. That might lead to positive change. I called Michael that afternoon. "Gracie, thank you for calling," Michael said, his usually confident voice subdued. "I want to start by saying I am sorry for what happened. I failed to see what was happening in Derek's department until it was too late." His candor surprised me. Corporate executives rarely admit mistakes so directly. "I appreciate that, Michael," I replied carefully. "It was a difficult situation for everyone." "Can you help me understand what went wrong?" he asked. "I have reports from HR and exit interviews, but I would value hearing directly from you." For the next hour, I provided a detailed account of the changes Derek had implemented and their impact on morale, productivity, and quality. I shared specific examples but kept my tone professional, focusing on facts rather than emotions or personal attacks. Michael listened without interruption, occasionally asking for clarification. When I finished, he sighed heavily. "This is not the company culture I thought I was building," he said. "We hired Derek because his previous results were impressive, but clearly his methods are incompatible with our values." The numbers looked good on paper, I acknowledged, but they did not reflect the long-term costs of his approach. High turnover, reduced innovation, technical debt, and damaged client relationships. "We have already seen that with Johnson Healthcare," Michael confirmed. "They were not pleased to learn that the entire development team resigned mid-project. They are questioning whether to continue our contract." There was a pause before Michael continued. "Derek has been placed on administrative leave pending a full investigation. We have hired an outside consultant to conduct a thorough review of our management practices and workplace culture." This was more significant than I had expected. Companies often protect executives, especially those recently hired, with great fanfare. "That seems like a positive step," I said neutrally. "Gracie," Michael said, his tone shifting, "I want to ask you something directly. Under the right circumstances, would you consider returning to Tech Solutions?" The question caught me off guard. What circumstances did you have in mind? "We need to rebuild the department, obviously. But more importantly, we need to rebuild trust." The consultant suggested creating a new position focused specifically on workplace culture and employee development, someone who would report directly to me with authority to shape policies and practices across the company. "That sounds like a significant change," I said cautiously. "It would be," Michael confirmed, "and I think you would be ideal for the role. Your team's loyalty speaks volumes about your leadership. I should have recognized that sooner." "I appreciate the offer, Michael, but I would need time to consider it. And honestly, I would want to know what happened with Derek before making any decisions." "Of course," he replied. "Take all the time you need. And regarding Derek, I can tell you that his future with the company is being seriously evaluated. The mass resignation was a wake-up call that cannot be ignored." After ending the call, I sat in silence, processing this unexpected development. Part of me was tempted by the opportunity to help reshape the company culture. Another part wondered if returning would be a step backward in my career. I called Thomas to discuss the offer. "Do you think it is a genuine attempt at change or damage control?" I asked after explaining the conversation. "Probably both," he admitted. "But that does not mean it is not a good opportunity. You could make real changes from that position." "Would you consider coming back if they made changes?" I asked. Thomas paused. "Maybe. Depends on the changes, and whether Derek is still there." Over the next 2 weeks, I had similar conversations with other former team members. Opinions were mixed, but most expressed openness to returning under the right conditions. Several had already received job offers elsewhere, but were holding off on accepting, waiting to see how the situation at Tech Solutions evolved. Meanwhile, the industry consultant hired by Michael conducted thorough interviews with current and former employees. I participated in a 3-hour session providing detailed feedback about management practices, communication patterns, and organizational structure. 4 weeks after the mass resignation, Michael called again. "The investigation is complete," he said. "Derek has been terminated. The board unanimously agreed that his management style was detrimental to the company's culture and long-term success." The news spread quickly through our former team's group chat. There was no celebration at someone losing their job, but there was a collective sense of validation. The concerns we had raised were legitimate and had finally been taken seriously. Michael's next announcement was equally significant. Tech Solutions would be implementing a comprehensive cultural reset, including reinstating flexible work hours, revamping the performance evaluation system to emphasize quality and collaboration, and creating a new executive position. Director of Corporate Culture. "The position is yours if you want it," Gracie, Michael said. "You would have authority to implement changes across all departments with a direct line to me and the board." It was a tempting offer representing both validation and opportunity, but I had also received compelling offers from other companies during my job search. "Can I have the weekend to decide?" I asked. "Of course," Michael replied. "But there is one more thing you should know. Johnson Healthcare has specifically requested that you lead their project if you return. They were impressed by your professionalism and honesty during that final meeting. That weekend was filled with pro-con lists, long walks, and conversations with trusted friends. By Sunday evening, I had made my decision. I would return to Tech Solutions in the new role, but with specific conditions regarding authority budget and measurable goals for cultural improvement. Michael accepted all my conditions without hesitation. We learned our lesson the hard way, he admitted. Sometimes you do not appreciate what you have until it is gone. My first day back at Tech Solutions felt surreal. The security guard did a double take when I badged in. Thought you were gone for good, Miss Gracie, he said with a smile. So did I, Frank, I replied. Life is full of surprises. My new office was on the executive floor, a physical representation of the organizational change my position represented. Amanda from HR was waiting for me, beaming. Never thought I would see the day when someone would prioritize people over numbers around here, she said. The mood is already lifting. The work ahead was substantial. Rebuilding trust takes time after it has been broken. Many employees remain skeptical, waiting to see if the promised changes would materialize or fade away once the crisis had passed. I spent my first week having one-on-one conversations with department heads, gathering insights and establishing relationships. Some were immediately supportive, others more guarded. I understood their caution. Actions would speak louder than words. Over the following months, we implemented concrete changes. The flexible work policy returned enhanced with clear guidelines to ensure accountability while maintaining freedom. We revamped the performance review system to balance metrics with qualitative assessments of collaboration and mentorship. Training budgets were restored with additional funds allocated for leadership development. Most importantly, we established regular channels for feedback, creating a culture where concerns could be raised without fear of retaliation. When the first quarterly employee satisfaction survey showed a 15-point improvement, Michael personally delivered the results to my office. This is just the beginning, I told him. Real cultural change takes time to take root. 6 months into my new role, I received an unexpected meeting invitation from a name I did not recognize at first, Derek Wilson. He was speaking at an industry conference I was planning to attend and wanted to meet for coffee. My initial reaction was to decline, but curiosity won out. What could he possibly want to say? We met at a cafe near the conference center. Derek looked different somehow. Smaller. Less intimidating. The arrogance that had defined his demeanor at Tech Solutions was noticeably absent. Thank you for meeting with me, he began, surprising me with his humility. I owe you an apology. Oh was all I could manage, caught off guard by his directness. Being fired from Tech Solutions was a wake-up call, he continued. I have spent the past 6 months reflecting on my leadership approach. I realized I had been measuring success by all the wrong metrics. What are you doing now? I asked, genuinely curious about his journey. Consulting, he said with a small smile. Helping companies improve efficiency without destroying culture. Turns out there is a market for that. And I have become something of a case study in what not to do. That must be humbling, I observed. He nodded. Extremely. But necessary. I wanted you to know that the mass resignation ultimately changed my perspective for the better. I just wish it had not taken such a dramatic event to open my eyes. As I walked back to the conference, I reflected on the strange path that had led to this moment. Derek's my way or the highway ultimatum had indeed destroyed his career at Tech Solutions, but perhaps it had also created an opportunity for growth, both for the company and, surprisingly, for Derek himself. A full year has passed since that fateful day when I walked out of the conference room. The calendar reminder popped up on my phone this morning. 1 year since the walkout. It seems simultaneously like yesterday, and like a lifetime ago. Tech Solutions today is almost unrecognizable compared to the toxic environment it had become under Derek. As Director of Corporate Culture, I have had the privilege of helping reshape the company into something even better than it was during the Michelle era. 9 of the 12 team members who resigned eventually returned, though not all at once. Thomas was the first, accepting a promotion to Senior Development Lead. Jennifer followed a week later, negotiating a hybrid work arrangement that better accommodated her family needs. Ryan held out the longest, having received an excellent offer from a startup, but ultimately returned 4 months later when we created a new innovation division that aligned perfectly with his skills and interests. The Johnson Healthcare project was successfully completed 3 months behind the original schedule, but with exceptional quality that led to an expanded contract. Their CTO later told me that our honesty about the technical challenges had ultimately strengthened their trust in us. "Any vendor can promise the moon," he said. "I value partners who tell me the truth, even when it is inconvenient." Michael has become a vocal advocate for human-centered leadership throughout the industry. At the last shareholders' meeting, he made a compelling case that our improved retention rates, increased innovation, and growing client base directly resulted from our cultural reset. The numbers supported his argument. Our profits are up 28% compared to last year. On a personal level, this experience transformed my approach to leadership. I learned that avoiding conflict is not the same as promoting harmony. By trying to shield my team from Derek's worst impulses without directly challenging the underlying issues, I had inadvertently enabled a dysfunctional system to persist longer than it should have. Today, I actively encourage respectful dissent within my teams. We have formalized channels for raising concerns with protection for those who speak up in good faith. I remind managers regularly that their primary job is to remove obstacles so their people can do their best work, not to control every aspect of how that work gets done. The experience also taught me to trust my own judgment more fully. There were countless moments when Derek's directives felt wrong. Yet I second-guessed myself because of his title and apparent success elsewhere. I have learned that gut feelings in professional settings are often the culmination of experience and knowledge that has not yet been fully articulated. Perhaps most importantly, I discovered the true power of community and solidarity. What began as my individual stand became meaningful because others joined in. Real change rarely comes from a lone voice. It requires collective action and mutual support. Last month, I received an email from Michelle, my former mentor who is still thriving in her international role. "I heard through the grapevine about the cultural transformation you have led," she wrote. "I am not surprised that you turned a crisis into an opportunity for growth. That has always been your greatest strength." Her words meant more to me than any performance bonus or promotion ever could. They confirmed that through all the upheaval, I had remained true to the values she had instilled in me during those formative years. As for Derek, our coffee meeting at the conference was not our last interaction. Surprisingly, we have developed a cautious professional respect. He occasionally reaches out with questions about balancing efficiency with employee well-being. His consulting practice focuses on sustainable performance improvement rather than the quick wins that characterized his earlier approach. During our most recent conversation, he said something that has stuck with me. "I used to think leadership was about having all the answers. Now I understand it is about asking better questions and really listening to the responses. People often ask me if I regret walking out that day. They wonder if I might have found a less dramatic way to address the situation. My answer is always the same. I regret that it became necessary. But I do not regret doing what I believed was right. Some principles are worth standing up for, even at personal risk." The most profound lesson from this experience is that workplace culture is not just about perks or policies. It is about dignity, respect, and the fundamental understanding that people are not mere resources to be optimized, but complex individuals with unique contributions to make. When leadership forgets this essential truth, no amount of strategic brilliance can compensate for the resulting damage. True leadership is not about dictating my way or the highway. It is about creating an environment where diverse perspectives can safely contribute to a shared journey. It is about recognizing that the best ideas often emerge from collaborative problem-solving rather than top-down directives. As I look toward the future, I feel tremendous gratitude for this challenging chapter in my career. It forced me to clarify my values, find my voice, and recognize my power to influence positive change. The temporary discomfort of standing up against toxic leadership pales in comparison to the lasting satisfaction of helping build a workplace where people can truly thrive. If you have ever faced a similar crossroads in your career, I would love to hear your story in the comments. How did you handle it? What did you learn? Sometimes knowing we are not alone in these struggles makes all the difference. If you found value in my experience, please like this video and subscribe for more workplace insights. Share this with someone who might need encouragement to stand up for a healthier work environment. Thank you for listening, And remember that your worth is never determined by how much mistreatment you are willing to endure. Here is to building workplaces where highway ultimatums are never necessary.